So my question, and this actually, this question came about in part in result from pondering that Dora and I did after listening to the session last Monday, where Jeff and Sally introduced something about, they introduced a description of nature of mind by Colin Rinpoche. Empty, clear, and unimpeded. And so we were looking up all kinds of things, and looking up all the various, the story of all the words for snow in Eskimo or Inuit or whatever it is. The number of words for mind in Tibetan is rather large. And along the way, we came across, we tried to sort it out into which ones are actually really useful to understand. And one word for mind, sem, has to do with mind from this perspective that of all the things that we could possibly say go on in mind, but from the perspective of not recognizing. And then yeshe being essentially the same thing, except from the point of view of recognition. But one of the little interesting bits, and this comes to the question that I have, when talking about mind, the writer was saying, it's actually more like a verb than a noun. It's more like sort of minding, but not exactly minding. But my question is, what would it be like for you if you related to the word mind as essentially a verb or something happening as opposed to a noun? You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but I find it very interesting to ponder that. And in looking at a lot of the Tibetan, there are a number of things that are like that, where words that we take to be applied to kind of something that has the quality of thingness or stability. It's a name for a thing. It's my cup, the lid to my cup, and it's my mind.
Wow, that sounded hard.
What?
Hard.
So, but most things in the Dharma where it sounds kind of like it could be a noun or just naming a thing, it's usually leaning more in the direction of something, a process or something happening. And I find that interesting. So when we say, I take refuge in mind itself, clear, empty Dharmakaya, we're talking about it from the perspective of the minding, from the perspective of recognition. So, there you go.
The sense of it being a verb, and that's the cool thing about Tibetan. It's many words are nouns, adjectives, and verbs, but it's cool to point out how a lot of it is toward that. But when you said, it's like what popped up was being, and I don't know how to say it as a verb. It's like the awareness. So I guess it's being aware. It's I shouldn't even be pointing there because it's like it's just bringing awareness, the quality of awareness, the being aware is what came to my mind.
Just the word aware. awarenessing. That's
Awareness.
awarenessing.
Awarenessing.
I think of the London Underground sign, mind the gap.
Mind the
I'm
gap.
sure there would be many puns that we could play on that here.
Gap the mind.
No,
Mind,
really.
please.
That's good.
I think of the analogy of a mirror, of the mirror-like wisdom or mirror-like mind. So, to mirror or to like reflect, I guess.
Mhm.
The thought that occurs to me is when just saying mind, the idea is to mind. Right? So anyway, the thought was that it sort of denotes taking more responsibility for your experience. When you're actively doing it rather than something that just is and is occurring to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, what I thought about when you said that is I have this feeling that the Tibetan way of looking at the world is that it's just this constant flow and change, that there's never a moment of stability, even if it's something like, a chair or a cushion that seems to just be sitting there as part of this flow that's continuing to move and change.
I don't know whether that permeates the culture, but it certainly permeates the Dharma language.
Yeah.
What came immediately was a kind of a release of mind as brain. You know, in the West, I'm always having to release mind as brain. That's why, like you said, we point here. We're like, it's right up here somewhere in the brain. And, we are immersed in that kind of science from very early, 5th, 6th grade on. And so it kind of popped that. And it also, because it gave that sense of a flow or a movement, the impermanence thing came more clear. Yeah, as in, like your word, minding. I'm minding. I'm awaring. That's nice. That's nice. Yeah, helpful.
Yeah, and also the sense that it's really not contained here, or I think Asian culture says more like it's here, but really it's just flowing out everywhere.
Yeah.
You know?
Now it's your turn for questions.
I have a question, Bill. There's that, I wish I had memorized it, but a semi-famous saying by Kala Rinpoche about mind. It's on the board at SCOL. It's a very short paragraph. I don't know if, Jeff, you did the woodwork.
Steve Barker did.
Steve did. Anyway, it's gorgeous. And in it, he says, there is a reality. That reality is you. I've always puzzled over that. Do you puzzle over it? And what do you get?
I pretend not to puzzle over it.
Well, I was looking at it for about a year, so it was every day. What does that mean? Of course, it's framed with some other things. So.
Let's see. I've forgotten all of it, but.
Yeah, tell us more of it.
Do you remember more? There is a reality.
Bring it next
you are
time.
the reality. something.
that reality is you. And at the end, he
That's
says
being.
something like, that is all.
Yeah. Yeah.
You might have to bring it.
Being everything, you are nothing. That is all.
Oh, yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. Seeing everything, you are
Yeah,
nothing.
it's actually being, not seeing. Yeah, it's something like
Oh,
that.
being everything,
Yeah,
then you are nothing.
yeah.
Yeah. Being nothing,
Yeah.
you are everything.
We'll have to find it.
I think we'll have to find
Yeah,
that.
we'll have
It's
to
a
find
very
it.
short, pithy paragraph, and how Lama Michael explained it was Kala Rinpoche's answer to someone like, what's mind, or what's reality. So
Yeah, it's real.
I'll look around for it.
Yeah.
We'll maybe bring it next Sunday evening. Oh, unless Dora can find it and read it to us. But go ahead with your questions. Can you read it? Let's hear it.
Let's see how close anybody was. Don't
Yeah.
read it, Dora.
That's been looking pretty good.
No prize.
We live in illusion and the appearance of things.
Mm.
There is a reality. We are that reality. When you understand this, you see that you are nothing, and being nothing, you are everything. That is all.
Wow. Can you do it one more time? It's so potent. Yeah. No.
We live in illusion and the appearance of things. There is a reality. We are that reality. When you understand this, you see that you are nothing, and being nothing, you are everything. That is all.
Clear as a bell.
So why did this come up for you right now?
How do I know?
Oh, well.
It just popped. It popped into my head because of your question,
Hmm.
and I don't. There's some connection in my
Hmm.
my mind there. But the piece it reminds me of is the appearance emptiness piece, that simultaneously and concurrently, always, appearance, emptiness, not separate, simultaneous, concurrent, mysterious. But of course, we're so dualistic, I end up, like most people, separating those. Like there's an emptiness thing to think about, and here's the appearance, and that's different. And so somehow that's connected in my confused thinking about that in being everything, you are nothing. Mystery.
Seeing you are nothing.
Seeing.
You are nothing. Come on.
This is the problem of technology. You have to keep looking.
When you understand this, you see that you are nothing, and being nothing, so it's both see and be. Being nothing, you are everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Being nothing, you are everything.
Yeah.
The sequence from living in the illusion and appearance of things and then seeing that, part of the appearance of things is that the illusion is that we are seeing the appearance of things. That's the circumstances. We're existing in appearances. seeing through that illusion, we also see through the notion of one seeing. That. The notion of the one seeing.
Yeah.
Because the notion of this illusion of reality is totally connected with the illusion of the one seeing this reality. That's actually what the illusion is.
Right.
And so in that, then seeing that, you see you are nothing. Right. No thing in particular. And in that, then but there's still all the appearance. So there still is the everything.
Yeah.
Now there's a slightly different translation,
Okay. Oh.
but it's very similar, but sometimes that helps.
Yep.
You live in illusion and the appearance of things. There is a reality, but you do not know this. When you understand this, you will see that you are nothing. And being nothing, you are everything. That is all.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the things of looking up some of the words, and Bill has a great online Tibetan dictionary where you can, you get the definition for something, and then in there will be other Tibetan words that you can press on and links you to then another thing, and so you can just go all over and learn lots. And then the guy who makes that dictionary has a lot to say about the meaning of the different words and different translations that are used and why he thinks this one's better or worse. So it's like quite rich and informative. But what struck me one of the things that struck me was because there are so many different words for different things, like there's, a word for kind of intellection, like forming thoughts, or there's a word, so sort of the thinking mind. There's a word for the mind that, associated with every sense, the touch and the taste and the seeing and then different ways of looking at consciousness, what we think of as consciousness. And then there's and just many different things, but that helped me see kind of the Buddhist view of that things are all composed and things are different depending on what is going on and how you're looking at it. And so that it kind of reflects the reality that we aren't just this very defined mind person that's just walking around and it's just very stable and very solid and easily assessed. It really is like sometimes you're thinking, sometimes you're sensing, sometimes you're emoting, sometimes you're in a fog, sometimes you're in a memory that's in another country, sometimes you're projected into the future, sometimes you're conscious of your body, other times you're not even aware of your body, sometimes you're dreaming and you don't even, and you think, there's a tiger in your room, and, it's just, it's not, it's not, that really, it is not just kind of a set, stable situation that we're in.
I had a question that was kind of sparked by your introduction about going refuge to mind itself, which kind of put me on a little bit of a tangent as far as the tension between method and simplicity. Simply resting in mind itself versus using the plethora of techniques that are out there to use to get to that place. I guess the question kind of comes from my own experience of sometimes getting a little bit sidetracked on all the methods that I could be using. And sometimes the best method is to let go of all that and try and simply rest, like you mentioned. So I guess my question is about, I don't know exactly how to put it, but when to be skillful in using non-methods versus methods, and how do you navigate that territory?
Patiently. Yeah. The various methods, and I'll just flip over to the frame of reference of the 4 foundations of mindfulness, just because that gives kind of a clear sense of why you would engage in those different, engage in calm abiding / insight using different particular methods. It's actually easy for us to kind of, relatively speaking, not easy, but it's relatively easy to just sort of settle in a certain way and feel settled. And then when anything else is going on, we don't feel settled at all, because we're having some kind of physical sensation, and our idea of settling is not even being aware of the body, as Dora said. That's one possibility. It's like, no, we're not. So, but then we're aware of the body, and this darn thing is bothering my meditation. So there are ways in which the first of the 4 foundations of mindfulness is using the tactile field, the body sensations, the sense fields, as the basis for meditation. So when we use the breath and sensation of the flow of the breath, we're actually engaging, you could say, in the first foundation of mindfulness. We're engaging in that way. But that's not all there is. We have all the other things, all the other possibilities. Dora was mentioning different kinds of things. So with the 4 foundational mindfulness, we also have structured meditations for bringing attention to just the feeling of pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Not attachment, aversion, ignorance, but pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, which is a very strong, it's kind of like a spark in a gas chamber. The gas and the energy of that is all our karmic stuff, but then the sense of pleasant, unpleasant is boom, we're off and running towards something, running away from something. So being able to actually settle the mind in that domain and notice, that's what pleasant, unpleasant is. Mindfulness of the mind, then all the domain of the mind and all the things that arise in it, the thought/emotion, and here feelings and feeling are distinguished. Feelings are, as in emotion, and thought are from a Buddhist perspective, kind of categorized together. What we would call emotions are thoughts that have a certain kind of energy. There's a certain kind of energetic aspect to them. And then the 4th one, sometimes called mindfulness of phenomena, is mindfulness of different mind states, kind of how all those things kind of come together into states. And that one's more difficult because it can be a very dynamic thing to rest the attention on. Mindfulness of the mind is more dynamic, and mindfulness of feeling is more dynamic than mindfulness of the body. We have a relationship with the body. We suffer from the illusion that the body is kind of a stable thing. And that illusion to start out with is our friend because it simplifies the practice. We think there is a thing for us to bring the attention to. So it's kind of, oh, that's a relief, as opposed to mindfulness of thoughts. It's like an extremely fast mosquito. That really, even if you could, there's nothing there to catch. So it's a different. So being able to. So there are reasons to engage in the various things and the various different methods. And it's to use that example. That's kind of gives a general sense of the rationale. Just in part because we can become sort of good at some things and measure our practice relative to a yardstick that only measures cups. It's just, as long as it's a cup, I can measure it. But if anything else, kind of forget it. I'm cooked. So in that, then it's over time, kind of patiently moving between some of these things, and some of it is being able to develop the ability to see, see a little bit about getting into the doldrums, a little bit. And a lot of times, it's actually helpful to talk to someone, talk to a mentor, and kind of check in, see if there's another method. There's another quote by Colin Rinpoche, which is, you know where I'm going. Yeah. You can't remember it either. Oh, well.
No.
You can fake it? Can you fake it? Yeah, well, then I'll fake it. The gist of it. The gist of it is that if you really could just see the nature of mind and phenomena and rest in that, all the other methods would be superfluous. And so it's kind of easy. That sounds, okay. Can I be that person? I volunteer. Yeah, I want to do that. But all the methods allow us to kind of see into things that we wouldn't otherwise look into. That's the short answer.
That makes absolute sense. But I guess you just touched on kind of another part of my question, which is all the various methods and how to use those skillfully versus using non-method and method. So I guess part of it comes from, not that I'm like very knowledgeable on it, but the Zen perspective of going kind of straight at the thing with absolute simplicity versus kind of this smorgasbord and color of all the different techniques.
Yeah. That's karmic.
Did you say that's karmic?
Yes.
Yes, I thought you said that.
Yeah. It really depends. We would love to have this kind of third-person omnipotent view of what's best and most optimal. But have you seen pictures like in Scientific American with kind of this artist rendition of the Big Bang and the first, bazillionth of a millionth of a trillionth of a second, it's like this. And then in two of those, it's like this. And it's all set up as though somebody was sitting in this lawn chair in space watching the Big Bang happen. And it's utterly absurd. And the sense that we would somehow be able to get the same kind of perspective and just get it nailed and know what's optimum. That's it's a kind of torture that we inflict on ourselves. To I came up with a phrase for this: the tyranny of the search for the optimal life. Wow. It was my first suggestion for a theme for the young adult group.
It works for older adults too.
Yeah. Everybody can sign up for that class. But there is this way that's part of the burden of the circumstance that we live in, where we've all had the opportunity to bite the apple, and now we want to know everything before we make any decision. We've got to have it nailed down. It's like, wow, that's a tough one. That's really tough. Because there are ways in which we can optimize certain things. And it's kind of dull-witted to not try to do some of them. But on the other hand, it's infinite. It's absolutely infinite.
So are you talking about just kind of wanting to know which method is right for you before you try anything out?
Yes, yeah. Before you, and then to hear about something else, and you and then you hear about the thing that you hear about the thing that you just heard about is that it's the really deep, it's the profound thing, it's the this and this tantra, or it's the this method, it's the.
I'm finding that that's just my particular type of distraction when I'm sitting, is that I tend to kind of try
Come
different
over
methods.
here. Wrap your knuckles. Dora. Oh.
We already negotiated, so me first, while you were doing that. Me first, and Dora. So this may be, for some of you, helpful, I think. And that is, when I first came into the Dharma, and first came to Kagyu, then went to Gelug, and felt very confused, because I was hearing about Vajrasattva and Tonglen, but it felt very like, how do these hang together? And then when I met my Gelug teacher, she said there's a blueprint, and the Kagyu refer to it too, but lightly, whereas the Gelug really lay it out, which is what they tend to do as the more study, kind of write a lot of book people. But I found it very helpful that there's paths, and they're described like the 5 paths. And so you can, at some point, read about those, and you can kind of find yourself there. And the first one is the path of accumulation. There's many translations, but that's one where you're accumulating merit of trying things, practicing, showing up, just like anything you're learning. You're accumulating a certain kind of positive, what do you call it, motion or momentum. And then there's the path of preparation, where you've moved along to a point where you've got some kind of this stability in your meditation, and you're kind of at least to a point of kind of understanding interdependence, and you're seeing it's not so solid. Then the third, and I'm really skimming these, the third path is the path of seeing. At that point, you understand emptiness. You get a boom. And then the next is the path of meditation to stabilize that. And it's really long to stabilize it. These flashes come. We get them. We don't recognize them. Or we recognize them and go, wow, what was that? But we don't have any sense of stabilizing them. So that's the path of meditation. And then the last one is path of no more learning, which is what we're talking about in a way. You don't have to do anything. You've got it. And only on the path of seeing, that third one, do you hit the bodhisattva path. And then there's 10 stages on that where you gain lots of powers and lots of capability. So it's, whether you like that outline or not, it's kind of interesting to read about. There is an outline. So you could just look that up, and there's all kinds of things written about it. But I find it helpful, and I read those descriptions of those to kind of see if I can find anything familiar about where I'm at and what I'm doing. It's helpful.
Thank you. That is helpful.
Did you have something you wanted to? Well, I'm on a different track, I guess, but I was struck by your word of saying non-method. Like, should I use a method or no method? So I would say that in our tradition, even Mahamudra is talked about as a method, even though the instructions are, don't alter anything, don't do anything, don't make anything, don't meditate.
Don't meditate.
Even that is a method in our tradition. So, but so then I was thinking maybe you were thinking of, anyway, I didn't know, are you thinking of meditation, like meditation without an object, where you're really just meditating on the current mind? And yeah. And so in that case, I think it's really good for all of us to, you know, after, let's say, some kind of introduction of practicing for a year or something, to give that a try, but to do it usually in for brief periods, because that's where we do want to be able to do that kind of meditation. So testing it out, but I also find that the best preparation for it is doing meditation with an object. And that's how, and if we do a lot of meditation with an object, we'll find probably that there become sort of more like peaceful gaps and times that if that sort of thing starts happening, then meditation without an object, that's kind of where you can work with meditation without an object. In theory, you could have wall-to-wall thoughts going on and try meditation without an object, but it's going to be hard to really have a feeling that you're meditating and to just not get run away. So even while you're doing meditation with an object, you're cultivating the ability to do it without an object. But to go ahead and try it sometimes without an object is reasonable, because it is a little different, and we need to, the word for meditation in Tibetan is familiarization. So that's really, we're not trying to just get familiar with a rice grain that we're meditating on, or get familiar with our breathing. Really, we're trying to get familiar with our mind. So when that is what we want to be able to observe and look at eventually. So these other things are kind of intermediaries to get us there. But one of the nice things too that is kind of along these lines, I've always found that when, let's say I do a retreat, and in there I'm doing a yidam practice or something most of the day, but then I do a period of shamatha, which with or without an object. But all of that practice with the yidam practice sets me up for better shamatha. So it's not like when you're doing the one that you're not doing the other. You really, and that's is the nice thing, that although we have all these different methods, as far as the shamatha or the shine and the latong, that is actually kind of in all of the methods, and so you progress whichever one you're doing. If you're engaged in it. And that's partly why we have the multiple methods. It's so that if we get bored with one, we get excited about the next one. Okay, whatever it takes to get us engaged in the practice.
Thank you. That was all very helpful.
I was wondering, what if when I'm sitting and I'm focusing on my breath, and I'm doing that for a short or longer, or real shorter or extra short, but I'm doing that and then letting it drop, and then trying to intentionally let it drop before I distractedly let it drop. But so bringing the awareness and the focus to the object of my breath, and then intentionally let it drop, but not drop the awareness. My understanding was that not dropping the awareness was non-distracted, non-meditation. So meditation without an object.
It could be.
Okay.
It could be. That's actually not the intention, because that would place another burden on place an even more refined burden on the period in between the micro session where you're supposed to be making an intention to meditate.
There was another intention of just trying to maintain awareness. Yeah.
Well, at least enough awareness so that you remember that you're going to start another micro session. But if you have no burden on at that time, then other things are possible besides trying to stabilize something. So it is actually, it's a great opportunity too. But all you need to do there is just remember, sometime shortly I'm going to come back and start another more focused session with intention and more focused method.
Sometimes what happens is when it's a time of like way too many thoughts, then it's like, I need my breath. I need to focus on my breath.
Mm-hmm.
When I get not often, but when I get a little more stability of using my breath, I'm letting that go and just trying to maintain awareness.
Don't try.
I think the word try is a vestige of language for things where they shouldn't be. Yeah.
If you just see what's happening, you can just say, I'll give myself, the only task you really need to just see what's happening.
Yeah.
So you're not.
Yeah.
But it's really,
That's
it's
closer
intended,
to what
it's intended as a period where you're not getting in your own way by making effort. So you actually can relax and then come back.
If I tried again to try to explain what was going, is that I'm just letting it drop and not grasping at things. Just.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Good. Jeff?
Oh. Anyway, thanks.
How did I answer it? What did I answer?
I had a similar experience during the all-day sit recently, and the all-day sit with shamatha, and that period where Lama Michael was suggesting like not even a full breath's attention, and then let it go. And I found I would just let go, and I was still there, still focused, but I was more relaxed than usual. And then I would think, well, this is pretty good. So when am I supposed to stop it? But you just basically answered that. Go ahead and recognize that you're going to start again soon.
Yeah.
It's still a rest period. It still has no burden on it. The word burden, I think, was helpful. No burden on it.
That's for me, that's the most critical thing. Yeah. Because there is a way we think that my mind's busy and or I've gone too relaxed, and then my mind drifts off. There's something about the act of bringing our attention that even when it feels kind of relaxed and settled, there is a kind of energy, and it's an energy that actually can accelerate distraction.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's not like you're there and you sort of notice that the mind and the attention is starting to do some kind of funny dance of the veils, and it's more like, and then you go, interesting, where's my breath? Oh, there it is. It's more like, my breath. And you're like, how the hell did I get here? It really, you just kind of go off the edge and into kind of a deep distraction.
Mm-hmm.
So that the burden of that, of the meditation actually can accelerate that.
Yeah.
Make that. And that can feel very frustrating. So that's one of the nice things about these. You give it enough energy for a brief period of time to feel kind of stable and there, and you really know you're there, and then you let go of that burden.
Right. Yeah, that was effective. Even when you get off the rails, and then you find yourself again, and it's kind of amusing.
Mm-hmm.
Here I am in the ditch again.
Mm-hmm.
But that was good. So, anyways, yeah.
All right. So we can dedicate the merit, and we can have the aspiration that we can mind the gap and gap the mind.
By this virtue may I quickly realize Mahamudra and establish all beings without exception in this state.
Grazie mille.